On my trip to Vietnam earlier this year, I spent a fair amount of time on a day trip in Dalat chatting with a Chinese tourist who was carrying a previous generation Oppo flagship. While we were touring a silk factory later in the day, he asked me to use his phone to take a few pictures of him, and I was immediately overcome with envy and inadequacy. All jokes aside, I had been pretty happy up until that moment with my Pixel 7, which had, at least to my eyes, a decent amount of natural background blur from the main sensor when photographing objects in close proximity. But using his phone, even while doing my best to navigate Chinese language menus on a time crunch, opened my eyes to just how far behind the big three Western smartphone manufacturers, Apple, Samsung, and Google, have fallen relative to Chinese manufacturers in terms of camera hardware. I was particularly impressed by the telephoto capabilities of his phone, which honestly put my Sony a6700 and Sigma 17-40mm f1.8 combo to shame. The itch to buy one of this year's Chinese Ultra flagships never really left me after that. I started binging through Germain's lens videos covering these devices, and around the same time my Pixel 7's battery really started to degrade. The combination of these two factors finally pushed me to take the plunge. I considered three phones: the Xiaomi 17 Ultra, the Vivo X300 Ultra, and the Oppo Find X9 Ultra. Based on Germain's in-depth comparisons, I decided I liked the look of the JPEGs coming out of the Find X9 Ultra in master mode the best by far. That was really what sold me on the Find X9 Ultra. So, $1,700, which is more than what I spent on my a6700, and several weeks of waiting later, the phone arrived in my hands. I pre-ordered through Giztop and got the 16GB RAM, 1TB storage configuration in the interest of future-proofing my investment. It is worth noting that this phone is not officially available in the US, so if you're considering one, you're looking at importing it. I've been buying my phones unlocked and out of pocket for well over 10 years now, so this wasn't a big deal for me. Alright, I've made you guys wait long enough. Let's talk about the photos on this device. The bottom line up front is that I am very impressed. I keep taking photos with this phone, like these ones of one of my rabbits, that I look back at in my gallery and I can't quite believe they weren't taken with a real camera. The level of detail and the degree of compression and background blur are just unreal coming from a phone. Master mode is a little soft with stock settings out of the box. I've been adding sharpness of about 25 out of 100 on my JPEGs to compensate. But with that said, I really like Master Mode. It does a great job of rendering highlight and shadow detail in a natural-looking, non-over HDR-y way while still holding onto a ton of resolution and dynamic range. Even taking these photos of my friend's dark-coated dog, there's just so much detail in the shadows. For reference, other than my initial batch of photos, which I shot in RAW, I've been shooting almost everything using JPEG Max with the Hasselblad Fresh filter set to 50% intensity. The 3x telephoto, which has a 70mm full-frame equivalent focal length, is the focal length that I've found myself gravitating towards the most. Fun fact, I've actually always really liked the full-frame focal length equivalent of 75mm, which is what a 50mm full-frame lens gives you on an APS-C-sized crop sensor. I shot a lot of that focal length using the manual Minolta glass on my Sony X3N, and it's cool to use a similar focal length here. I've never had access to a telephoto lens on a smartphone before, and it's really cool. The 10x lens, on the other hand, is noticeably darker and a little weaker in low light compared to the other focal lengths, but it's still really awesome to be able to take photos of my rabbits from across the room where the subject fills the frame. Autofocus is good, but not quite perfect given how shallow the focus plane can be. I've noticed it's occasionally a little off, particularly when photographing pets, which are one of my main subjects. It sometimes misses animal eyes and requires a manual focus tap to correct. Related to this, the focus box stays fixed in its original position in the frame when the camera or phone moves, rather than tracking the subject, which is not what I'd prefer, and adds an extra step when your subject isn't staying still. In contrast to the main lens and the two telephoto lenses, even though the selfie camera is head and shoulders above the Pixel 7's, it's still somehow not quite as impressive as I thought it would be going in. Third-party app integration is also a little lacking. I've noticed that Snapchat selfies in mixed lighting can come out pretty badly overexposed in the sky specifically. There's also no master mode available for the selfie camera at all, which is a frustrating omission. As for the ultra-wide lens, which is one of the Find X9 Ultra's weaker points compared to the Vivo X300 Ultras, I have nothing to say because I haven't used it at all. I never used the ultra-wide on my Pixel 7, and I'm not about to start now. Find another reviewer if you care about wide-angle focal lengths. Lastly, it doesn't seem like night mode is available in master mode unless you're also in auto exposure. You can't combine night mode with a manual EV slider setting, which is an annoying limitation. Again though, the bottom line is that I love taking photos with this phone. To be completely honest with you guys, I have shockingly found myself leaving my actual camera at home a lot more often, which is very, very unlike me. When it comes to video, there are a few codec and recording limitations worth flagging up front. There's no open-gate video recording from the rear sensors, which feels like a missed opportunity. There's also no APV encoding support. I've seen Elliot from Epic Tutorials for Mobile Filmmaking seemingly dismiss the Oppo out of hand for lacking this, even though the processor is technically capable of it. For comparison, the Vivo X300 Ultra supports it, but honestly, that critique feels a little harsh to me. HEVC has always worked fine for my needs, though I'll admit I've never had access to a phone this advanced before, so maybe my bar is lower than it should be. Another small annoyance is that log recording is not currently supported in the Blackmagic camera app. And for what it's worth, I don't want to have to use a third-party app like MotionCam Pro to get raw video or direct log. I just want to be able to use a phone's stock Pro video mode and shoot in a robust compressed format. I also haven't yet tested whether the Find X9 Ultra supports writing video directly to an external SSD, which is something I want to look into before my full review. I have mixed feelings about the video recording so far. In good lighting, the video looks great and honestly much closer to mirrorless camera footage than I ever would have expected. As far as the flexibility of the log footage is concerned, OLog 2 is very gradable and handles my typical power grade perfectly. I do want to give a shout out to Izoard Photo Video for walking me through how to convert OLog 2 to DaVinci Wide Gamut, DaVinci Intermediate, using the ACES transform that Oppo provides. I'll link that video in the description. I still need to test exactly how much OLog 2 needs to be overexposed to avoid noisy shadows. I'm coming from shooting S-Log 3, which, as I've covered before here on the channel, really needs to be pushed as far towards overexposure as possible to avoid shadow noise. Based on my limited evaluation so far, OLog 2 seems more than fine exposing correctly in decent lighting, although I'm not yet sure whether the sensor is making use of dual gain conversion. My biggest gripe so far when it comes to video is that when testing log recording at high ISO values, there's too much noise reduction applied, which really kills fine detail. The files need significant sharpening and added grain in post to look acceptable. This has really made me appreciate just how granular and natural looking the noise pattern on my a6700 is by comparison. On the sharpness front, the Pro Video mode doesn't appear over-sharpened to my eye, but there's no sharpening toggle available if you're looking for one, which is always worth knowing going in. Microphone quality seems quite good. I tested this while recording myself and a friend singing happy birthday to my friend who shoots on Lumix, which is actually the same clip where I first noticed the aggressive noise reduction issue at high ISO values. It does seem like 8K video recording has some fairly gnarly rolling shutter, but I'm not normally whipping the camera around. OIS, on the other hand, seems very good, which was actually one of my deciding points over the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. One real limitation for my specific use case is that while waveform monitoring is available for exposure in the main camera app, there's no false color. I've grown accustomed to having false color available through external monitors on my main camera to calibrate my studio lighting setup, so not having it here is a real impediment to using this phone for talking head recordings. I have been using a USB-C to HDMI cable to use the Find X9 Ultra with those same external monitors, which may be a realistic workaround depending on your use case. As far as accessories are concerned, I basically put the phone straight into a Tilta Khronos case that I ordered from B&H, out of fear of damaging it prematurely, so I don't have a ton of standalone impressions of the phone's build quality on its own. The case itself is built like a tank, and I do not use that comparison lightly. My significant monetary investment feels quite safe inside it. However, while the phone itself is not actually that heavy, the case is, and I do wish there were a more minimal case option available that still gave you the ability to mount an ND filter. As far as I can tell, the Tilta partnership is seemingly the only option on the market for an ND filter compatible case, and it's not cheap either at over $90. To make matters even more annoying, the case doesn't come with an ND filter adapter ring. I had to order that separately from an AliExpress vendor who was willing to create a standalone listing for it for me. So shout out to Lucky1992 Tech Store for that. The case also has an integrated magnetic attachment point, which is very strong, possibly too strong. I haven't tested wireless charging through the case yet, so I'll report back on that when I have more information. On a more positive note, I actually really like the arc mount that I purchased separately to use with this case, which pairs nicely with my Ulanzi mini tripod. Most of the different Khronos attachments are not proprietary to this specific case, with one exception: the cooling fan, which according to the vendor that I spoke to on AliExpress, is only available as part of the $400 mega bundle. I also picked up a KNF Concept ND filter, which is essentially a smaller version of the one that I already use on my a6700, to pair with the case's filter mount. You can hear my thoughts on this filter in this video here. A quick aside on software before we wrap up the video. ColorOS is very iOS-like out of the box, which I didn't love initially. For example, the breakout between notifications and quick settings mirrors iOS pretty closely, and the default icon style does too. With that said, there are decent customization options available if you want to push it towards a more Android material design feel, and I've seen rumors that Oppo is going to push out a good lock-style comprehensive customization suite in the very near future, which I am really looking forward to. To wrap this up, I want to reiterate that this phone has made me feel like it's much less essential to bring my a6700 with me everywhere I go, which is honestly a little bittersweet. There's something quite strange about a phone narrowing the gap with mirrorless cameras this much. Alright, that's where things stand after my first couple of weeks with the Find X9 Ultra. As with the Sigma 17-40, I will be doing a long-term review down the line once I've had more time to dig into some of the open-ended questions I flagged for you guys today. Thanks for watching until the end of the video. I appreciate it more than you know. Until next time, this is Bedrock Reviews, signing off.